Hey guys, Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Hey Sahar. I know this is the first time we see each other. I see you fixed your hair. Haven't looked in a mirror all day, huh? I love it. Sorry guys, it was just a little bit late with starting the meeting, but I really appreciate you guys coming on. I hope that this time is good for you all. I'm Central Time, so I'm like, wow, 9 is really late. But I guess it's kind of nice. You put, maybe if you have kids, you put them to sleep, you're done with the day, and you're just chilling with your legs up, quote unquote, and now ready to take in a fun meeting. Hey, assalamu alaikum, Sophia.
Hey.
All right, assalamu alaikum, everybody. Welcome to Isla's Teach with Tech. I'm so happy to have you guys join us for another month of teaching with digital tools and technology. This week is really, really important, classroom management in a virtual world. And I got a peek at the slides beforehand, and I've got to say that I'm really excited and interested to hear what you've got to say. We'll be using the chat function for you to share out who you are and any questions that you've got. And if time permits, we'll allow for some unmuting as well. All right, Sophia, with no further ado, we'd like to pass the mic to you.
Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. So classroom management in a virtual world, what does that entail? For those of you who haven't been in the previous sessions, just a quick information, about me. My name is Sophia Jetpuri. I'm a curriculum content consultant with Google. I'm also a 7th grade teacher this year at Alphala Academy here in Georgia. I work with the Islamic Speakers Bureau, and I have a master's in curriculum instruction and a second master's in educational leadership. So I've been in the education realm for about 15 years, but been teaching, wanting to be a teacher my entire life. So this is just kind of all about me. And so overview of today, I am going to go at a quick pace because there is a lot of content, and I want to make sure that I give enough time for the Q&A and for you guys to be interactive with the chat screen. So Shaza, feel free to interject. I'm not to be monitoring the chat, so feel free to just let me know. Okay, so we're going to go over what is a community of learners, basically what is classroom management. We're going to try to understand different types of behaviors, principles for working with students and preventing this behavior, and then what would you see as an accomplishment for an effective behavior management in the classroom. Now, one of the things that I want to discuss, when we talk about learning communities, it is going to be the same criteria, whether you're on-site or digital. And that's something I'm going to constantly kind of remind you. All the information that you know about a learning community, whether you're inside or online, the basic research behind it, all of that pedagogy is still the same. So 5 characteristics of a learning community. You have security, whether you're in a building and you have security guards and locked doors and your windows are fogged out. You want to make sure your students feel secure. So how are you doing that in an online atmosphere? So I just put a couple things on the side. You could have password protection on your Zoom links. Make sure that every time it's a unique link. You can allow students to blur their background so they could feel secure in their home space without, not being sure of who's going to see and who knows about their home environment. And then I added hijab protection because this is just, I didn't know how to phrase it. This is something that just recently came up at my school. We were trying to send a recording out to a family member, and one of the teachers says, oh, no, the mom walked in the middle of that class session and she didn't have a hijab on. What do I do there? So in terms of, developing a community to where if a parent is coming in, they know they should have a hijab on, or understanding how to clip that recording at certain parts to make everyone feel safe and secure. So open communication, you're going to have that in a on-site learning community, you're going to have that online. You're going to make sure you email your parents and message your students. So I have multi-liking, shared goals and objectives, and connectedness and trust. So all of those are all parts of learning community. Some of the other stuff I have on the side, we have classroom screen, shared objectives and slides. Those are all parts of a learning community, ways that we can do it. And I'm going to go into more of those later. Virtual class jobs. Most of the other ones I will go through a little bit later in the presentation, but when we look at connectedness and trust, on that I'm adding, have saved videos, make sure you have office hours, one-on-one meets, and we'll be going through that a little bit more. Okay, so how can you create a virtual learning environment? How do you make it so that you have all those elements of security and shared goals and connectedness now? What can you do in your classroom? So virtual learning environment, there's a couple different things that you should have. First one is positive social interaction. Now, obviously, we're all in our own little bubbles at home. You know, no one's in school. We have a couple schools that might be doing a hybrid model where there are students that are coming in 2 or 3 times a week, other students who may be in person, but even then you need to be able to, you know, provide some social interaction while also giving them some space. And then there's a lot of us who are in a digital atmosphere right now. My school, we are in digital at least until December, and we don't know, they might extend it, low at them. So how do you create that positive interaction? So one of the things that we started is Fun Fridays. So I have my office hours on Fridays, and I let the students come in and they can chat with me. We have one-on-one sessions. We play games like Connect 4, different things like that. What can you do to make this in terms of where they can physically see each other? And that's where you're going to need engagement from stakeholders. And we're going to hit that point in a little while. So self-motivation, this is for a virtual learning environment. The students need to be motivated and excited to be there. It's kind of hard to, retain that engagement. So for that, I put gamification and edu protocols, and we're going to be talking about how to have that engagement in classrooms on our next session. So make sure you're here so you get a little bit more on how to keep them motivated and how to make your lessons a bit more engaging. And then active engagement. What can we do to keep it active and while also having your classroom environment, properly function without disruptions? And there's a couple examples, Live School and Class Dojo, and we're going to get to that. Okay, so what are some types of virtual behaviors that you're going to anticipate? Now, I put virtual kind of on the side because we have a lot of similarities, whether you're on-site or virtual. Now, there's a difference between off-task behavior and misbehaviors. If you can see, your off-task and virtual, a lot of them are pretty similar. Where I have failure to bring supplies in a virtual atmosphere, you might have someone who doesn't bring their laptop or is not charged, or they can't find their Google Drive document and what folder they put it in. Misbehavior, talking in the chat in a virtual atmosphere versus needless chat. In a virtual atmosphere, you're going to have people who might disrupt, rename themselves constantly and change their names around. How are you going to deal with those kind of misbehaviors? You have people who might leave the meeting, walk away, turn their video on and off, or constantly, do something else in the background. And then in an on-site environment, your more kind of extreme types of misbehavior would be aggressive actions and crimes. In a virtual atmosphere, that's where you pull in your cyberbullying, and Zoom bombing is actually a crime. Going into someone else's Zoom chat, I recently learned that. So how can you deal with these kind of misbehaviors in an online classroom? So before we talk about how you can deal with it, let's kind of get some, background in terms of what are the causes of these behaviors. Now, really big and bold, I put on there, the causes are complex, they're personal, and they're often out of the teacher's control, especially when they're not with you. So there could be health factors, right? You don't know if that person has COVID, if somebody in their family does, if there's other health factors, if they have some exceptionalities and neurological conditions that they might be dealing. When you're at school, you can do 504s and RTIs, and you can be with them one-on-one. But how are you able to really address those causes? And when you have such type of conditions, that child may end up in misbehavior. You don't know what's going on in their home environment. If there's a sibling in the background, tapping them, throughout their class and throwing things at them, if their physical environment feels safe to them, then there's also, they might just have poor behavior decisions. There could also be other students that are in the chat. They might be on Hangouts on the side. They might be texting your student while you're in the middle class, typing something, and you don't know what's going on. And that's not in the teacher's control. And then the very last one, teacher factors when managing the classroom. So there's so many causes to misbehavior that are outside of our control, but we have, our ability to try to manage the classroom. And you need a little, minimal level of order is necessary for instruction to occur. Your students' involvement in the learning tasks, they're going to be affected by the order of the classroom, and cooperation for students is required to establish that order. So these are some of the variables, and let's look at what we can do as teachers, okay? So teacher factors. Well, there's a learning curve. You know, a lot of us, we're all learning a lot of this tech stuff together, and there's new tools that are coming out every day and new PDs that we're being told to learn and sit in with, you know, that our team is having us do. So that's part of it. Then we have our own life, we have responsibility, and I appreciate all of you who are coming in towards the end of your day to join us. And, you know, this shows that you really want to, you know, make your classroom management and make your classes effective. So, you know, this is like an amana for us, you know, but part of that teacher factor is that responsibilities of life and, you know, being at home with all of your other kids and everything else might come in play when it comes to trying to create some of these classroom management strategies. So kind of part of that, you know, you want to make sure you have the time to do all of this, and you should go slowly, you know, choose one or two things at a time. Don't do all of the tips and everything I teach you right at once. Just choose a little bit and add on as you go, as you get more comfortable. And then technology. This is a huge one. You know, we have myself, I've like, my computer has lagged, my audio has messed up, my mic is messed up, computer has died in the middle of class. And I mean, there's just kind of, the list goes on. So you know, control what you can, but outside of that, test, try everything out, set everything up prior to your classes, try out the breakout rooms, set up your polls, because nothing's going to derail your online lesson faster than fumbling with a slideshow or a video conference and, you know, not having the slides and the audio work correctly. Okay, so some principles for preventing misbehaviors. Now, the principles are coming from the Handbook of Classroom Management, but I'm adapting them to work for a virtual atmosphere, okay? So first one is maintain focus on your task. Now, you have, you could use class timers, a classroom screen to display the slides. I'm gonna swap my screen really fast and show you this. Here's an example of a screen. You know, when you start in, when your students come in, you could have a welcome slide that says, how are you feeling, and your basic objectives, your goals for the day, and quick breakdown of assignments. So that if you have your slides ready to go, the students are going to maintain that focus. They're not going to get derailed. You can have, you know, constantly refer back to the slide throughout your lessons also. Understanding your students' needs. If you want a positive and productive classroom, you need to make sure that you really understand your students. This could be, you know, from getting diagnostics, RTIs, 504s, and just even talking to your students. In the first 2 weeks of my school beginning, we're on week 5 now, I went through every single student. I called them, you know, asked permission if the parents are okay with me to talk to them. We did Zoom meetings one-on-one, and I scheduled those sessions just to get to know my students, because building that rapport is very important. When you understand your student, you're going to understand their needs. Understand their culture and cultural differences, you know, and respect them. So for that, I sent out a parent Google form, you know, where the parents could tell me anything they wanted, and there was a list of questions they had to answer. But understanding that is going to really help build your positive classroom, because when you're in the building, you see the parents, you say salam to them, you know, they can walk in and give you the lunch, and you can see, oh, wow, like you can see the way they dress, and you can understand more about their culture. But when you're on a computer, you don't have that. So that Google form is a great way to do that. You could also set aside time to talk to those parents one-on-one. Know what causes the misbehavior and deal with them. So for that, you know, set clear rules, set procedures and expectations. Okay, have a plan for responding to the misbehavior with hierarchy of intervention. And we're going to get to that with some of the online tools that we'll discuss right at the end. I bolded reduce punitive methods, because we're in this virtual atmosphere and you have no idea what's going on in these people's lives, right? I mean, one day they'll show up to your class and the next day they might just disappear, and we don't know, did that somebody in the family get sick? Did their computer go out? Did they just oversleep, or do they just really not want to come? You know, you need to have that little bit of grace and patience and understanding in this atmosphere. And we do need to make sure that, you know, obviously the students understand about late work and completing assignments, but at the same time, we can't control the situation that they're in at home as well. So we need to make sure that we're able to, you know, establish this safe atmosphere for them that's positive and productive for them. I have, so there's establish a cooperative and responsible classroom. For that, some things that I did, trying to think, we've done a lot already. We did virtual class jobs, and I allowed the students, you know, I have one student who comes in and he takes the attendance, another student comes in the class and they're in charge of sharing that main objective screen in the beginning of class. So there's different class jobs you can come up with that can help make it very collaborative, where students have that say in just making decisions. Another example would be, you know, ask students if there's some online extracurriculars that your school can offer, if you can do a live stream of morning announcements, possibly. You could use Jamboards. We use that for doing rule taking. We've used that in a session here. I had the students all come in class together and we did a Jamboard, and they were all putting Post-its of what they think our class rules and expectations should be. So it gives them that give. And, you know, more often than not, the student's going to create the same rules that you would really want anyways, and they'll point out things that you possibly might not have expected. And then lastly, involve the parents and guardians. We have a school PTO. I'm actually the teacher rep at our PTO. And one way that the parents are trying to actually help the teachers creating a positive culture and cooperative environment is that the parents are now, we have WhatsApp groups that are being monitored and created so that, you know, there are tools for communication available for the teachers and for the parents. They have that social element. They have that communication kind of filled in that way. We have support groups that we're launching with online sessions for parents who need help with technology training and Google Classroom training or whatever they may need. We are going to be doing an outdoor movie night, and everybody's going to drive in with their cars, and we're going to have like a big social, you know, like I think Kona ice and snow cone and things like that where they can have outside. So your parents and, you know, they can really help build that culture if you reach out to them and allow them the opportunity to bring everything together for you. You know, as much as we can do, we need our stakeholders at the same time. So what else can we do? So I'm going to go through some of my top tips. Okay, so set your rules ahead of time. And for that, we walked in on this slide. You know, when you come into your class, what are you going to expect your students to do? Every day, have a clear routine and procedure established. That way they're there, it's consistent, they know what they need to, you know, do as soon as they get in. So every morning when my students come in class, this is the screen they actually see. Occasionally I'll have a timer and some background sheets on it, but this is there and they know their expectations. That routine allows them to completely, you know, be prepared. So if we have those weekly lessons that they know, every Monday there's a vocabulary lesson, or every Wednesday they have to do online study island or skill practice, that's really going to help them. You know, share the examples with them as well. So share your email etiquette. How would you like them to write an email if they're older? Or if they're younger, how would you like them to send a message? Use polite language, you know, don't use sarcasm at all also, you know, because that's not going to be led over there. So just lead by example.
Sophia,
yes.
I just want to interject. I mean, I think that that's really, really important, that what you're really pointing to, what I hear you pointing to, is that these things really need to be explicitly taught. Certain social interactions and norms that we wouldn't consider teaching maybe upper elementary, middle school, or high school, they really need to be explicitly taught right now in this virtual world. Including,
so this is the perfect timing to actually model one. So Shaza, when I get them in my classroom, and for elementary, you know, one of the things that I've seen some of the teachers do, they'll say, "Assalamu alaikum, I'm Sister Sophia." And now every student is going to go around and they're going to return back with a smile. If they say, "Assalamu alaikum," okay, and they're not smiling, you know that's not the expectation. So let's try it, Shaza. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Sister Sophia.
Wa alaikum assalam, Sister Sophia.
And you have to say your name.
Oh. I'm Shaza.
So it's about explicitly, like you said, explicitly showing them what it is. Maybe there's something else, some other procedure, something else that you have. This is a great time in the chat. If there is something that you use in your classroom, I'd love to see it and learn it. You know, we do roller coasters at our school, like chugga, 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 woo, as like a positive thing when students do really well. So what is something that you do in terms of your morning routine, or what would you like to do? How can you make this a routine for your students to come in? Anyone in the chat wants to share, we'd love to get some other norms.
All right, morning meetings, and you're welcome to unmute yourself if you'd like to say, ask them to type a word to share how they're feeling. Nice, Noor. Okay, so it's just one word. It's kind of low pressure. The morning class starts with dua. Very nice, Sister Fatima. Important to integrate that Islamic component even as we're not all in class. Everyone is reciting it quietly. Okay, so it kind of sets the tone. That's nice. Sister Sophia, are you going to talk? I saw it in the beginning. Are you going to talk about videos on or off? That's kind of been a thing too. Maybe that's not part of this, and you can tell me that. We could.
I put that in my very first Google expectation, but that is on, I think it's on the next slide a little bit. On mine, on number 4, I have take notes, camera on the screen. And for our students, we do want to make sure their cameras are on so we know it's them and they're not asleep or doing something else. We do keep video on. Different situations may vary. You know, you might have a student who reaches out to you and tells you they are having a webcam issue, or they don't have a quiet area. So you're going to have to be able to work with your students and look at, you know, each one kind of as a case-by-case basis, but overall, you know, having that camera on, it allows them to know that you care about them, you're there for them. You know, by establishing that norm and following that structure, it's going to really allow your students to feel more confident and comfortable, you know, when that full study process is really well established and all the procedures are predictable.
And we've got a lot of really great additional things being shared here in the group chat. Keep them coming. That's wonderful. All right. And Sister Mara's even included etiquette in her, and I know that you're going to be talking about some of those positive reinforcements and stuff. So that's wonderful. Integrated. Great.
Okay, I'm going to go back and look at the chat a little bit later. I don't know. I didn't see the chats. There's also hand signals, so you could teach your students different hand signals. So if anyone has hand signals they'd like to share. So for example, we have this, I want to go to the restroom. There's this for, let me go get something, you know, get water, or like, this is obviously ask a question. But the reason you might have hand signals is because very explicitly, you might want to teach your students the difference between questions or comments. So they might just say, I have a question, or they're just raising your hand. So you're thinking it's a question, and they'll be like, Sister Shaza, you want to know something? I just looked out the window and there was a dog and it jumped over my neighbor's fence.
Right. So, well, and you know, with older students, Sophia, actually, it's reversed, where you might, or actually maybe with different kinds of students, we're more introverted students, you know, in the classroom, you can sense that there is a student who's paying attention, but they're just quiet, or they look puzzled and they're not asking a question, but virtually you don't have that. So I think just really consistently encouraging our students to ask questions, and how do you ask questions when you need clarity is really, it's something that I'm noticing with my own children. I've seen.
So for that, what I really like is Padlet, and we're going to be practicing it in the next class. But Padlet is great, especially because it can be fully anonymous. You don't have to have your name on that. And especially in the online environment, you know you're looking for 9 responses. But if you see those questions pop up there, they don't feel like, especially those shy introverted ones who wouldn't normally ask a question because they don't like being looked at. This way they're able to still ask that question without having to type it in the chat and everyone know it's them asking or them having to raise their hand. So there's different tools like that you could use. You could also have them all hold up like a yellow card for help or a red card, and then you can meet those students individually in breakout rooms also. It doesn't have to necessarily be right there. It could be, okay, show me a yellow card if you need a little bit more help, a blue piece of paper if you're good to go, and then for the ones who need more help, you can meet them in breakout rooms as well.
All right, I'm just going to read a few more, Sophia, and I know you need to keep rolling. So you got thumbs up for yes, thumbs down for no. I've seen teachers use a mute sign on a big paper, and she trained her students to mute themselves when she holds it up. That's really nice. So not interrupting every time saying, hey, I need you to mute. I need to use that for some meetings. We give students 15-minute breaks between classes, so they have plenty of time to come prepared. And some other schools are giving 10-minute breaks. Oh, Sister Saida says, draw how you feel today. That's really nice for the younger students. I like that. And then students also
Okay.
receive lunch and
I
salah
like
breaks.
that.
Great. Wonderful, mashallah.
Also, I'd like to share about the etiquette grade. It works great in the sense of you basically say that's 5. That's all you write to the student in a private chat, or you can just say it like, because you can't say it in front of everybody because then everybody knows that that student lost 5 points.
Right.
You just say that's 5. And so you take it off their etiquette grade, which already like in their sycamore. And so it's been working great. So if you unmute yourself, like you're muting yourself unnecessarily or unmuting yourself or playing around with your screen or, you know, just being disruptive and not following the rules. So that's been working out great.
Okay.
Thank you, Sister.
Thank you for sharing. Okay. So
We've got a couple more questions, Sophia. I know you've got a lot more in here. This one's really good because
this is a packed one.
Say that again.
This is definitely a packed deck
Yeah,
today.
this is a packed session. So Sister Samara says she's got Montessori 3 to 6-year-olds. She lets them use the restroom or drink water and join them back again. And she's instilled in them how to just do that. I think that that's really, really wonderful because especially with younger kids, they can't wait till the breaks.
Yeah.
I even think for older students, I've seen my own children. I'm like, what are you doing right now? I thought you don't have a break right now. And they're like, oh, we're allowed to get up and go to the bathroom. So I think that as long as the teacher really explicitly sets those rules, children can then follow them, inshallah.
Right.
And,
it has to be done right in the beginning, right? So if you're creating that culture and those rules, those students know they can't just walk away and disappear for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So it really depends on the individual teacher. Once you have that created, you don't necessarily need to have all these signals where you're monitoring 20, students on a box.
Right. We've got one question, Sophia.
Sure.
Sister Fatima Khalid is asking, in Google Meet, they can't have students answer us individually and they write it in because some students may copy others' answers. So she's just clarifying, can you use Padlet for that reason? But I guess then you wouldn't know if it's anonymous, or is there a way to also...
Well, for Padlet, it doesn't necessarily have to have the student's name on it. They can type their name on it, or they can just leave it and only put it on there. They could also do it on a Jamboard without putting their name on it. And as a teacher, if it's a Jamboard you've created, you could actually see the history on that Jamboard. And if you really wanted to see who asked which questions, so you have that option as well. On Google Meet, something else that I've also done is I've sent a separate meeting. So we'll all be together on one meeting, and I've sent a separate meeting code to all the students. And I'll tell the student, okay, I'm going to just meet with each student one-on-one real quick. And I'll meet with one, be like, okay, Umar, you're doing great. Do you have any questions? Okay, good to go. And then the students that need a little bit more help, they'll stay in that meeting room a little bit longer. So I'll have simultaneously 2 meetings or 3 meetings or multiple meetings running. But my students have been trained that when you're in that meeting, you're completely on mute. Your speaker is even on mute. You can mute that entire tab, because that way they're able to listen to the second meeting at the same time. So there's a couple different ways to do it. Shazza, I'm going to continue, but feel free to interject. Let me just get through this slide because we do have a lot today, and I want to make sure we have enough time to get through our Q&A as well. Okay, so it's going to be inevitable that you're going to deal with some discipline issues, and this kind of pulls into Sister Amara's points where she was messaging her student on the side. So the best way, you want to be able to keep balance in your virtual classroom is to deal with these discipline problems immediately. You don't want to have to unmute and call out every student altogether, just like she said. You can message them on the side. So have immediate responses. And we're going to get to 1 or 2 tools that you could use for that right at the end. Have a positive environment, encourage everyone, allow them to talk to each other. You can talk to them privately after class. Basically, they should know the causes of their actions, of if there is something and any unacceptable behavior. Create a virtual space, and that's going to come up. And overall, have a positive attitude. You want to make sure that they're happy to be there. A lot of them, you have a lot of depression going around, a lot of different mental states. People miss their friends. I've been going down, so that's why half of you saw me today. You saw my running score today that I accidentally sent because I was trying to, maintain my own positivity by exercising. So it's really important to encourage the students, allow them to ask questions, you know, make it delightful, make it friendly, you know, have a positive mood in your classroom, you know, praise them wherever you can, set that as a norm and have ways of praising them. And we'll look at some ways of praising students by badges, cartoons, and lists. And so this is the first one that we looked at, creating a classroom space. So I have a Google site as well. So we use Google Classroom, but I also have a Google site where all of these links are available for the students, kind of as a landing page. And they can look at the class schedule. We have a class economy. There's enrichment options where they can go for word puzzles and all sorts of extra things to do in their free time. And it's just a quick place. So have an area where they can go to see everything. You know, they could even have a little chat screen or a Padlet and have a discussion board on the side. We do weekly brain building time where it could be a quick would you rather game or a, you know, who does it best game, or, you know, just something else that can make it like you really want to put that extra time. And it's not in my instructional period. You know, I teach reading, language arts, and social studies, but once a week, I'm pulling 10 minutes of brain building because it's really important to have that give, you know, where students feel like you really want them there. You want to be able to be a part of their life. You know, you could play all those games for just a few minutes. Use a variety of communication techniques. So outside of your phone calls, your messages to students, your emails, you could also do snail mail or email, you know, there's a lot of different things. This is a postcard I sent my students at the beginning of the year. I got little Target scratch off stickers. They got it in the mail. In the back, I had a message for each student. So come up with different ways to communicate with the students that might catch them off guard. Okay, so this is a huge list, and I know you guys are going to have a lot more, so please type them in the chat screen. I'd love to get more ideas to add to my own list. So for individual behavior incentives, what can you do? You know, it's not like in class where you can pass out tickets the same way or say, okay, come, you know, sit in the teacher's chair. What can we do? So there is a huge list on them. The one my students are currently working towards is they're trying to get a TikTok from me. So they're trying to earn enough incentive points to get that. And I mean, I'm not going to read through the whole list, but please definitely share yours in the chat screen and let's see what else we can have. My students actually love doing the Zoom filters. So normally I have that as, you know, you must have a solid background, no filter, but when they've earned an incentive, they can use a filter and pixelate their screen and put bubbles all over themselves and use different backgrounds. So just some different ways to do it. Another idea I came up with, because I have some students who love reading, there are a lot of Kindle books that you can get for free. If you got parent involvement, you could possibly get some money donated to do ebooks or other incentives. You could do a dance party. There's just some images of what I meant in terms of Zoom backgrounds and filters and behavior incentives. So badges and stickers. This one I'm just starting. I'm actually super excited about this. I do have a file I'll share with you guys at the end. But when my students are working on Google Slides or, you know, turning in anything digitally, I'm starting to put little online stickers. So these are pre-created, it's just an image, and I'll pop it onto their work when it says, great job, amazing. So when they go back and they look at their assignment, and especially if it's an interactive notebook like the ones that we shared about in our last session, they'll look at, you know, 5 days of a journal entry, and instead of only Post-its with my comments, now there's also going to be stickers built in. So this is something that they get really excited about. And you can tailor the stickers, you can make any graphic you want on an editor, you know, on Paint or anything at all, and just pop it into their slides. It's a lot of fun. Now, overall, as a whole class versus individual students, this is just like a really quick set of ideas that you could do as in-class behavior incentives for everyone online. Some of them are the same that I had as individuals, but again, if you have some ideas that you're doing, share them in the chat. I'd love to see what you guys have. And Shaza, feel free to chime in at any moment. Like Pixar short movies, those are really fun. They're about 10 minutes and they can do it as an incentive. So I have these 2 files I'll be sharing with you. You could be doing an online marble jar. It could be on a Google slide, where the students can view only, and they could view that file whenever they needed to see how many marbles they have filled. And as a teacher, while you're in the Zoom class, you can say, oh, great jobs, Seher, Amara, Halima, you guys have done great, you've earned a class marble. And then you're gonna go and put a marble on that. And until it's, when it's filled, you'll be able to, as a class, allow them to vote, do a poll on Zoom, and allow them to poll and see what is their class incentive going to be. And another, alternative is amazing apple trees. You could do a graphic of a pizza with pizza toppings until all your pizza toppings are filled. The possibilities are endless. These are just ones that I found, but I'm sure there's going to be a lot more. Okay, so some softwares. This is one I really, really like. It is completely free. There is a pro version available if you would like to save your screens, but it's really quick. Classroom Screen has all these widgets for class sound monitors. You can put in files, there's timers, there's text box. It's a lot of fun. It's a really quick, fast slide that you don't have to really make because everything's really, already sort of built in. There's polls on there, group makers. I love, love, love this Classroom Screen, and it's got beautiful backgrounds. I try to put in, different softwares that are for the most part free for you guys versus ones that are paid. This one has a very, very good free one. And most of the ones, you'll see very limited options. The main difference between the free and the pro version is that for the pro version, you would be able to save your screens and reuse your screens multiple times. Whereas in the free version, you can't do that.
Yeah. So I'm sorry to interrupt.
Sure.
I'm confused about the Classroom Screen. So is it just like, so that QR code, like you could just like put it onto your slide or the timer?
So this is my next slide. Next thing I'm going to share. I have it opened up actually.
And we were impressed with how quickly you switched from screens too. That was another piece that I was like, I saw somebody in the chat had given us the tip on how you did that.
Okay, can you see my screen right now?
Yes.
Okay.
We see the same Classroom Screen, your slide share.
Classroom Screen right here. Oh, you don't see the other one.
No.
Well, see, this is why I said the biggest thing that can, fumble our teachers up is technology. It can throw everything off. Okay, so here we go, Classroom Screen. So this is, when you get onto the website, you can put a couple different widgets on here. So this one right here is on noise sensitivity. So if you allow your students to talk, and this is in class and online, it can pull up that sound, and it'll tell them where they're at. There is this widget right here. It's a QR code. If you're in person, they could come up to your wall, scan it with their device. There's also the website. So obviously, if they don't have to scan it, they could just click on the website. There's a text box. There's a random name generator. You could put the students' names there. There's dice. So you could say, okay, choose a number 1 through this or whatever. And I'm sure there's like endless possibilities to use the dice. There's a drawing tool on the screen, just like a little whiteboard. Ooh, where am I clicking? I have too many things on my screen. I can't see it anymore.
So it's kind of like those Chrome extensions, but actually for your laptop screen.
Yes, and it shares the entire screen, which is what I love about it. I like the traffic light, the timer for, effective management. There's a stopwatch. Instead of having to, insert a video on a Google slide when you're inserting the timer, it's already built in here. There's a calendar. I just really like this one a lot, honestly. And you can have multiple screens. You can put polls on there. You can change the backgrounds. It's a really well-made classroom management thing. And this one can also be used in the building and at, when you're on site as, digital as well. It kind of has the multiple sources. So I do like this one.
Usually in our workshops, we give you guys time to try it out with Sophia, but we've just got so much more and we know it's already really late. So we've got about 15 minutes, Sophia, just a heads up for you.
Okay.
And We do have somebody just clarifying. So that classroom screen could be used for Zoom meeting, Google Classroom, anything. Like you said, it doesn't even need that virtual environment because
Yes.
you're using your laptops in person as well.
Right. Okay. So now there's a couple different other softwares. So I just named 3 altogether. There's Vion, NetSupport, and NetTop. You could try them out and see what you like. This allows you to actually monitor and control your students' computers. So you can hop on their computer if they're at like, I don't know where to click, I can't figure it out. You could get remote access of their computer, be able to drag and drop things and kind of show them how to use some of the resources and websites that we're on. You could take screenshots of your student screen if they're having trouble showing you their work, or if you don't want to have to wait for them to upload it and take a picture, you could just say, okay, hold up, and take screenshots of their screens with some of these softwares. You could record their screens as well. Our school, we use GoGuardian, which is also an amazing software. It has most of the same features, but that is the paid version. And there's a couple extra things that you can do with the paid version, but I put these 3 because they're all free softwares and they have really good functionality on here. So definitely look into those. Now, Class Dojo, most of you probably know this one. If you're doing your 5 points or 7 points or whatever it is, this allows you to really quickly give your students points and take away points and allow them to earn all those incentives that we talked about. So you can save the points on there and have them earn it in that way. It gives the students a voice. They're able to actually share things on there themselves and send you pictures and videos. You could share moments with the parents. Now you're not in class where you're taking pictures of your students in it anymore, but you could share your digital moments. You could share a clip of a presentation. You could share something that your students posted, one of their work, So there's still functionality in using Class Dojo. Now my school doesn't allow Class Dojo, so I'm actually using Live School. And the reason our school doesn't allow Class Dojo is because, we try to make sure that our main platform for student and parent interaction all stays the same, and Class Dojo can't be monitored that way. So if you're an administrator, that's something to keep in mind, that you're not going to be able to monitor your individual teachers' Class Dojo communications. It's more of an informal way. So Live School, this also allows you to track, reward, and improve student behavior. You can leave comments for families, and there's a reward store and point system. And this is fully customizable. You can say, okay, point for muting, when entered, and point for being respectful to classmates, or whatever you want to put points for, and they can use this. The little caveat on this one is that it is free up to 3 teachers per account. So if most of our schools, we have students who are being taught by 7 or 8 different teachers. You have your Islamic studies teacher, Quran teacher, Arabic teacher, PE teacher, and you have multiple teachers. So only up to 3 teachers can use this on the free account. So if you're using a free account, that's kind of your max, and you'd have to, team up with the homeroom teacher to kind of track those points if everyone is going to be on it simultaneously. But otherwise, there is a paid version as well. So if you follow everything, you should have some accomplishments in your classroom. You should see that you're going to have a very effective environment for learning. It's going to go seamless. Once those rules and expectations are established, you're going to have positive relations with your student. They're going to want to reach out to you on Fridays and take up your entire office hour just wanting to talk to you. It will help your students develop some self-control where they'll know not to message you at the wrong time, not to raise their hands and do things they shouldn't be doing once they have those basic classroom principles established. It heightens their sense of purpose, also. They understand that their takeaway is, they're there in this kind of crazy atmosphere right now, but they're still there to learn, and you care about them, and you're all there together. And this will foster a sense of responsibility in your students, young and old. I've seen it work for my kindergartner who is at home, who can completely manage his entire classroom because that teacher, day one, made sure to establish all these routines. And he knows what he's responsible for. And alhamdulillah, I don't have to monitor him. So inshallah, if you do all of that, I'm wishing you guys a great year, and I can't wait to get to the next presentation and teach you a little bit more about classroom engagement. So I have some of these resources on my link tree. So you're going to see a virtual class job PowerPoint. There's virtual class stations, daily check-in form, gumball rewards, the one that I shared a picture of, and I think there might be 1 or 2 other resources there, along with all of the previous resources that we shared in our previous Bitmoji interactive notebooks and the add-on extension. So all those resources are still on the Linktree and they're all available there. And that's it. Jazakallah.
All right. Thank you so much, Sister Sophia. I really appreciate this. This was just jam-packed with so much information.
I rushed through, but now we can get through all of our Q&A.
I know. And I really wish that we had time for that interaction. I think you said that next week, inshallah, is going to be a little more interactive where people get to try out stuff online. Great.
And that's because that's all about classroom engagement. So we are going to be hands-on and engaged.
All right. So come ready, guys. Thank you so much, Sister Sophie. I'm going to stop the recording now.